One. Welcome into the latest episode of the Major League Baseball podcast, courtesy of the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. I'm your host, _G Warner, joined every Tuesday night, unless we somehow push it to Wednesday, by at A Brooks Bets. We were 4-0 in our last four best bets. How are you doing tonight at A Brooks Bets?
We're rolling. We're rolling. I'm 3-0 in baseball so far tonight. Hopefully we'll keep these series prices and everything rolling and we'll get good value for tomorrow. There's a lot of things happening in Major League Baseball. A couple superstars getting their hands broken. Maybe Mookie Betts is down. Aaron Judge, we'll see. He's en route to the hospital.
Oh, yes. That was one of my losing
Anyway,
bets tonight, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably touch on those a little bit more in depth just to make sure we get through all these games. There are some day games per usual on Wednesday, maybe even more than I was expecting. But we'll go in rotation order. We will have best bets coming end of show. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across baseball. And of course, the Euro soccer tournament plus Copa America starting this week. If you have not rated our podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, go leave a 5-star review, write something clever. I'll have at A Brooks Bets, I guess, act it out, or just read it or whatever the heck. Just leave a 5-star review. It's good for search rankings. And of course, if you're not subscribed at the real_G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram, that's best place to get our 1 minute ending videos, in case you want to grab our best bets and not listen to other 39 minutes of hilarity. But we'll start in the National League with Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Hunter Green at Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller, a slight -113 favorite right now at BetOnline. All lines quoted on this podcast are courtesy of BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag. There are links in the podcast descriptions at both on both YouTube and on the Apple and Spotify combos. If you are not a member of those sites, go get some free money. With that said, total here is 8. I'll remind you the spread again, or the price on Pittsburgh -113 at home makes Hunter Green and his big fastball a very slight underdog.
Yeah, I like the Reds better than the Pirates, I think, at this point in the year. I like Hunter Green a little better than Mitch Keller. So I'm gonna lean Reds on this one.
So I watched this game intently tonight. I backed Pittsburgh, and honestly, I thought Pittsburgh put Lodolo in a lot more difficult situations, but couldn't come up with anything. And then a 2-run shot from Santiago Espinal of all players ended up putting Cincinnati ahead 2-0, and they held on for dear life, but were able to. Cincinnati, who I thought was a really bad bullpen until a bullpen game recently, or saw that their most recent numbers, they've been one of the top bullpens in all of baseball, which is kind of surprising to me. I feel like it's a wasteland until you get to Alexis Diaz at the end to close out. But I think Cruz in the ninth has been or in the eighth, excuse me, has been very good. What do we think about Pittsburgh, Mitch Keller? Because he throws 7 pitches or more, it seems. And I'm a little bit surprised that you like Hunter Green more than Mitch Keller.
Yeah, I was just I'm actually surprised too. And I'm just looking at the underlying numbers. I like it when I surprise myself with stats. I feel one way and I look it up and I think, oh no, that's different. Maybe that's an edge, right? Maybe the whole public thinks that and you can combat it. Because yeah, the sexy fastball from Hunter Green, he throws 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
It does kind of tend to be erratic from time to time. But his underlying numbers are better than Mitch Keller's by a run or two in the expected ERA department. And I don't see that priced with this line necessarily. And I just like the way that the Reds, I know both teams I think are 5-5 in their last 10. So there's no like form really to bet on here. But yeah, I mean, if you get me talking too long about the Reds, you're gonna find out that Elly De La Cruz scored on a pickoff attempt from second base.
I was actually just gonna bring that up. I
Yeah.
was gonna say I was watching a little bit on delay. I think I was watching it yesterday, but a Sunday game. Elly De La Cruz starting the play was beginning when him on second base, and they tried to chase him back to second. Oops, he did it again. He scored
Yeah.
that same play, but you beat me to it. I feel like with Cincinnati, I mean, I'm not impressed with their lineup much at all. It seems like it's Elly De La Cruz and when Spencer Steer's hitting, Espinal
Yeah.
of all people
And
got the game
Friedel's
winner
banged up.
tonight.
Friedel pulled a hammy making a tremendous defensive play yesterday. So maybe he's not even in the lineup tomorrow, especially being a day game. He was out today. So he was out Tuesday, maybe out Wednesday. Probably like one of those things, kind of rest and see. Hopefully he avoids the IL again. But I agree with you. It's like Friedel, Steer, De La Cruz, not a ton of depth really. So, and you got De La Cruz and Will Benson leading the league in strikeouts. it's not great when teammates are leading the league in strikeouts. That kills a lot of rallies.
Yeah. I feel like these are two mirror images the more we're talking about them. Cincinnati can't really hit, Pittsburgh can't hit. It's really
Yeah.
about how good their starter is, which you could argue that Green is better here, and he's a plus 103 underdog right now. So maybe that's the way to look, though it's pretty cheap price on Pittsburgh at home, which I think speaks to no one having a clue who's going to win this game. But Cincinnati closing a favorite tonight was interesting, but Lodolo was really good. St. Louis at Miami is our next one on getaway day, Wednesday. Kyle Gibson at what I thought was going to be Max Meyer, but it looks like Yanni Chirinos, former, had a couple really good seasons, I feel like, with the Tampa Bay Rays, and has been a journeyman since then. Got one line at Circa, so take this for what it's worth, but it looks like Kyle Gibson minus 167 road favorite. Total is 8, and St. Louis is starting to play a lot better.
Yeah. I don't really know where to go with St. Louis. I think I got to study them a little bit more. I've been down on them the entire year, and they seem to have, I don't know if it's rounded a corner or at least started playing better, like you said. So I'll dig in a little bit more to the Cardinals. I do know that the Marlins stink,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
haven't really been trying for a while. Yanni Chirinos, again, I thought it was also Max Meyer, but it looks like that's changed. And the line here is, I guess, kind of how I expected it to be. I'm I might lean under here. I really
Yep.
don't like the
Yep.
Miami offense at all. I mean, it's Jazz Chisholm at the top, and then I don't think there's anybody really that I'd want on my favorite team. So, um, you know, it's a crumbs game. If you like watching the crumbs, then have at this one in the middle of the day on Juneteenth.
Yes. Oh, good point. Yes. So also, in Miami on getaway day, I mean, good possibility that some St. Louis Cardinals players might be trying to go experience a life tonight instead of. I would be checking those beds if
Well,
I'm the manager Ali Marmol. Moving next to getaway day game as well. This time with San Diego involved, so that's going to be a fairly early body clock thing, even though they've been at Citi Field, getting swept by the Mets this past weekend. So they're probably itching to get back to the West Coast. We got Matt Waldron, who's been very good at Ranger Suarez. Looks like the Phillies are minus 159 favorite at home. Totals 8.5, pretty juiced over. Feels like this price is pretty respectful of Ranger Suarez and the Phillies. I got Trey Turner back. That's a big deal. Still waiting on JT Realmuto. But Waldron's been very good for this price, I feel.
yeah, I think the opposite. I think
Okay,
Ranger
go ahead.
Suarez is 10-1 with a 1.77 ERA, and this should be closer to $2. Like you just said, the Padres have not had recent good form. They've been on the road for a while. They probably are begging to get home. This is in the middle of the day. I feel like this is all lining up badly for the Padres. Um, what's your thought process on maybe backing the Friars when they're in the midst of this, or maybe at the end of this tough stretch against what has been, by the numbers at least on paper, the league's best pitcher?
Yeah, good question. I think it's mainly Waldron's been very good, was pretty much a pick 'em on the road at the Mets this week. Definitely a big difference between the Mets and the Phillies, but I feel like really good pitchers don't really get 1.5 to 1 odds too frequently. And we saw Fernando Tatis got this first day off of the season today. I think he's been really scuffling, so maybe that's a reason for it. But yeah, I mean, all things, I don't really want to bet against Philadelphia, especially at home. I do feel like there's a point though where the Phillies are going to be very overpriced because they are the best team in baseball. Like I remember them last year bringing a dog at home with Zach Wheeler on the mound in the playoffs, the Atlanta Braves. So I feel like this we've turned whatever the Cardinals corner that they turned. Wow, just mixing up all these words. I feel like Philadelphia is, I think, teeter-tottering on being way, way overpriced. It probably does not impact them too much here. I was fading Matt Waldron every time I could when he first came up to bigs. I don't really trust knuckleballers, but he's been very, very good. And I guess the hard part, though, is even if San Diego's in this game late, they're still on the road. And unfortunately, plus 146 doesn't look great with a Manfred man at 10, in the 10th inning on second base, and you have to somehow survive. So we'll move next to San Francisco visiting the Chicago Cubs. No starter for San Francisco right now, so no line, but Kyle Hendricks has moved his way back into the rotation. Is he just fade material for you right now?
Yeah, exactly. You said it. It's undecided for the Giants, and I don't really think it matters all that much. Um, Maybe he's got one last ride in him. It's kind of sad to see a guy like Kyle Hendricks. I think he's close to like 10-5, which is a big pension thing or a big future lifetime thing. He's probably made multiple millions of dollars. So I don't know why I'm feeling bad for him right now, but
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I know it's at home and it's during the day, and the Cubbies will show out for it. It's hard to say without knowing who's really on the mound for San Francisco. Maybe it's a bullpen game, but yeah, big. I guess fade material. We'll see what the line says. What do you expect this one to be? You think?
I think it's very hard to say. I'm thinking around the
Yeah,
Cubs, maybe like minus 125, which is
I,
I think
I would
expensive
say
for how the Cubs have been treated lately, but sounds pretty cheap against a bullpen game. I actually feel, I mean, I guess I do like the milestone thing and the pension. That sounds cool. But Kyle Hendricks has been responsible for a lot of losses in my gambling career. So usually against him, and he's been awesome, and I can't explain it. And then finally, when I had a chance to actually back him, he gets boat raced. But we'll move on to Arizona at Washington. Brandon Pfaadt at Patrick Corbin. Happy Patrick Corbin Day to all those who celebrate. Still somehow in a rotation. I guess Washington, even though they're close to the playoffs, like race right now, everyone is, I guess, but they're just literally taking a loss every 5 days, but they're refusing to eat that contract, maybe because they're still paying Max Scherzer too. But Brandon Pfaadt currently minus 150 road favorite, which is gigantic for Arizona. Total here is 9, just pretty heavily to over. Any temptations for you on backing Syracuse's own Patrick Corbin?
No, shout out Cicero, North Syracuse, North Stars, but no. God, he's terrible. $25 million. This is his last. I looked up his contract before this because I couldn't. I think this is the first time we've gotten to discuss it on the podcast, actually. I'm looking forward to this
We're
day.
so lucky. We do this
I
every
mean, yeah.
week. Yeah, yeah.
I haven't understood it for 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's like I know the Chris Davis thing in Baltimore, but he's close to worst contract ever. He's getting $25 million, and they're not in win now mode. I don't understand why you would not use this for a young guy who you think might be good one day, or even a bullpen game to get like what I don't understand. I don't understand why he's not sipping a Mai Tai at the Bahamas somewhere or wherever. But yeah, this is also that being said, the Diamondbacks are a huge favorite, and that seems weird at this point in the season. I'm still going to auto fade Patrick Corbin, though. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
North Stars.
maybe over is the way to do that. I mean, yeah, I don't even know. I
Yeah.
feel like the less time we spend on this game, probably the better. Moving next to another great matchup. Thank you, Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. We got the Dodgers and Bobby Miller coming off the IL at Ryan Feltner and his batting practice fastball for the Colorado Rockies in Coors Field. Bobby Miller, fresh off the IL, which I've had friends that literally their baseball strategy was bet against pitchers who come off the IL. And I think that's been part of our strategy this season as well. But that's dating back for what feels like decades now. I guess I've been doing this far too long. But Bobby Miller minus 190, minus 190, nearly a $2 favorite on the road at Colorado. Total here is 11. We're starting to see these totals tick up higher at Coors Field. I think my biggest interest is to try to fade that Bobby Miller fastball because Ryan Feltner might give up 11 himself. And I think over is my biggest interest in this one.
Yep, you read my mind. We didn't even talk about this before the game, but I'm also going to fade Bobby Miller coming off the IL. And at Coors, Feltner's not that good. Mookie Betts is out, and they think the world's crashing, or maybe some people think, oh, well, that's a reason to bet the under. No, I'm going over 11 here. Way over 11. I don't like betting games when they're, minus 190 and all that. You get into like some hairy stratosphere, some atmospheres and things. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Clouds,
so
all that stuff. Yeah,
and
terrible.
the Rockies are beating the Dodgers as we currently record this. So anything can happen when you score 11. I think there's probably more variance. Well, I don't know. Maybe the numbers would say probably more variance in a low scoring game actually, but yeah, over 11 seems too good to pass up here.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if you got to pick something there, and maybe even I'm seeing a lot of flickering red that this number is dropping. So maybe someone thinks that the Dodgers bullpen is going to pitch 5 innings shutout or something like that. I would bet against that as well. Moving now to the American League, which we have no early games, which is refreshing. We'll start with Seattle visiting Cleveland. Brian Wu refusing to get any sort of IL time or arm surgeries, or I guess he's just doing a lot of cupping or something like that. And Brian Wu at Tanner Bybee, who is, I mean, this is a great matchup. I'm almost finished with today's game. Cleveland started off with a lead, and Seattle was literally just playing wall ball, essentially. I think they hit the center field wall like 4 times today from what I've seen so far. Brian Wu's arm does seem to be problematic. Looks like Bybee's minus 127 favorite at home. Total is 8, very juiced to under. Looks like this one's going to fall to 7.5 to match the rest of the marketplace. But that's why I recommend getting multiple sports books so you can shop around, because that's the best way to increase your ROIs, at least without doing any work, just having money in different places. But with that all said, Cleveland's bullpen got smacked pretty hard today. I would expect to bounce back. What do you think about Tanner Bybee and his inability to throw a fastball this year?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at these stats right here. His fastball run value is in the first percentile, which means this works the 99% of guys. His breaking ball and off speed run value is in the 97th percentile. Yet he throws his fastball 45% of the time. Would hope that he mixes it up and gets more off speed and breaking ball pitches thrown, because that's just a terribly ineffective fastball and really good off-speed pitches. So, and breaking pitches. Brian Wu has been great. I mean, the results speak for themselves. The Mariners might be running away with that division. They're up 8 games now.
Feels like
It's
it.
yeah, it's the Guardians might run away with it too. I think they're up 5, and the Royals have been a little bit scuffling, and the Twins actually have been on fire to kind of catch up. But this one, I mean, under 7.5 is kind of tough, but I do like it. I'm leaning that way, under 7.5. I think these are two really good pitchers. I know that the bullpen didn't do very well for the Guardians today, but Bybee, I like Bybee. I think I leaned on him in either the last best bet or the one before that, and he came through for me. So give me under 7.5 is my lean here. If I had to pick a side, I'd probably go Seattle.
Okay, take the odds. I like Tanner Bybee as well. He threw a first pitch slider, I want to say, a couple starts ago, like first pitch of the game, which you don't see that very often. And I was like, okay, he's buying in. He's just not going to throw his 96-mile-an-hour fastball unless it's like a surprise pitch. But then the next start, I saw his first pitch, and it was fastball down the middle, and I got absolutely roped, I think, for a double. I forget the teams that they were playing, but I think that there's a lot of knowledge in Cleveland that makes them, I think that's why they're good. I read an article way back when and tried to explain to my parents why I don't work for a Major League Baseball team, when a rocket scientist got denied because he wasn't smart enough mathematically to get a job with the Cleveland Guardians or Indians at the time. And I was like, see, this is why I can't work in this industry, because rocket scientists can't do that. And my podcast co-host can't even say stratosphere. So like, I don't even know what to say about this. But I feel like I don't know what's going to happen with Brian Wu. It doesn't feel like it's going to end well. He's been awesome this year, but I can't expect him to go very deep in this game. So there's going to be a lot of Seattle bullpen, and that is both good because they're really good with the bullpens. I mean, these are two mirror image teams. I feel like Cleveland's getting a lot of respect compared to today's number, but Tristan McKenzie was awful and had been living on borrowed time, I think, entering today's start. Moving now to the Bronx for probably the biggest series out there, Baltimore at the New York Yankees. We got Maury Povich's son, or whatever, some Povich, making his third rookie start. At Garrett Cole, who's coming back off the IL. Speaking of pitchers we want to fade coming off the IL, looks like Garrett Cole's minus 167 favorite. Totals 8.5, juice pretty heavily to over. In terms of where this number has gone is a big question. I was expecting a bigger number, but then Aaron Judge might have broken a pinky. At least that's what our insider Russian bot from our fantasy group thinks that has happened. And I'm sure he's confirmed it and called all the Montefiore's and whatever, like every lab he could get his into his phone number in the last few hours. What do we think about Garrett Cole coming off the IL? I'm guessing he's not going 8 innings in this one, but felt New York was pretty dominant in tonight's game. Nestor Cortez against Albert Suarez, but it's a pretty big hole in that lineup when a Judge is not in it.
Yeah, that threw a wrench into my plans. I guess a little bit. I mean, as much as you can value one offensive player in the big leagues, Aaron Judge is probably up there. So he probably won't play tomorrow. Either, even if it's not broken. Those things kind of tend to swell up when you hit something hard like that. It like hit the back of his hand. So in theory, this is a rookie no name pitcher against a name value ace guy, and these Bronx Bombers are gonna bomb the Yankees with a bunch of money. And I would wait. A little lesson for the kids. I'm not going to bet it right now. I'm going to wait until closer to game time when you're going to get better value. I do plan on betting the Orioles here and fading Cole off the IL. Maybe it's wishful thinking. His his rehab stints have been decent and fine, and he seems to be okay. And I really do hope he is. Nobody wishes injury on anybody. He has avoided surgery. Is one of those things like woo. It's something that is a new way to manage these arm injuries, where some guys are kind of opting away from Tommy John or from other reconstructive surgeries and going to platelet rich injections.
And
And
how well did that work for Kyle Bradish?
yeah, not so good, I guess. But
I mean,
I'm
that's the
gonna
thing.
bet the Orioles. I'm gonna wait till 6:55 to do it.
I like it, but I would probably want to be a little bit more aware when that lineup drops because if Aaron Judge is not in it, this number, unless it's already reflecting it, which I don't think it is, it's dropping precipitously. With that said, I was pretty concerned with backing Povich in his last start against Atlanta. Um, and I don't know that I'm going to feel any more comfortable about him being at the Bronx, even if Judge isn't in that lineup. Stanton will be there most likely, and then Rizzo's out too, which is interesting. But I just Baltimore tonight. I mean, they had Albert Suarez, who was throwing like 60% fastballs, throw like 45% tonight, and he was all over the place. And I think it took him like 100 pitches to get through 4 innings. I don't even know if he got through four. So I feel like there is some concern in that Baltimore organization, dugout, whatever, about what they're walking into. But I initially I was really hoping to be against Cole, but I wanted a more established pitcher, and I'm a little bit concerned about what I saw tonight. But of course, we'll see what the lineup looks like tomorrow, where this number goes. And I'll move now to Boston at Toronto. Brian Bayo at Kevin Gausman. This is a very interesting number, which I'm now looking at the first time live. Gausman minus 120, 120 favorite at home. Total is 8, just slightly to over. Brian Bayo, to me, is not a good pitcher. But the Red Sox are pretty hot right now. Toronto is the opposite of hot. And Kevin Gausman is like really, really scuffling with a pretty big favorite to Cleveland last Friday and took a loss. What do you think that changes here?
Yeah, so Gosman is his exit or not exit velocity, his pitching velocity, his fastball velocity is way down. And that correlates to some pretty poor results, which he is experiencing. I do like the Red Sox in this one. I like them at this price. You mentioned something to me this past week saying if you think the Blue Jays are one of the worst teams in the league, then you might be able to make money off that kind of coming down the stretch or throughout the midsummer. And I plan to do that. This is not a Boston pick. This isn't against Toronto pick.
Mm.
I don't really love Bayo either. I would literally like any of the other 4 starters to be starting, but if you're going to give me plus money to bet Boston against Gaussman and the Blue Jays, I'm taking it.
I like it too. I think what we have found with Bayo is he's never going to strike out the world. Was a Pedro Martinez protege, I guess, but missed the strikeout part of it all. But I think he can keep Toronto in the yard, and that's what you need to do is force them to get continuously hits after hits after hits. Toronto really struggled, I thought, to close out the Guardians on Sunday. Then Red Sox coming off Sunday Night Baseball had at least 4 solo home runs of Yusei Kikuchi, and then closed a favorite tonight with Tanner Houck in Toronto. So, I mean, it's not looking good based on where these teams are. I feel like I was trying to adjust my number to get as low as possible for Kevin Gausman because he's usually a really big favorite at home. And I don't think there's enough there for me to want to stay away, especially Yimi Garcia is on the IL, and I don't know what's going to happen with Toronto's bullpen, which has been very bad all season. So lean to the Red Sox there with you. Moving to Tampa Bay, visiting Minnesota, we got Taj Bradley at Joseph Ryan. Ryan, a minus 159 favorite at home, total is 8. She's very heavily to under. Taj Bradley looks like the second coming at times and then gives up 5 runs the next inning after like 3 dominant, or I think he struck out 8 out of 9 Red Sox and then gave up 5 the next inning, the start that I'm talking about from the Trop a few weeks ago. He seems like he's got all the stuff but can't really put it together. Does he do that here?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Ryan's a guy I've been looking to back. This looks like a very favored Minnesota team, though. If you were to ask me what this line would be at the beginning of the year, I would have said more closer, closer to toss up.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is reflecting recent form. The Twins have won 5 straight as we record this. I, of course, last podcast said that I think it's a 2-horse race between the Guardians and the Royals, not the Twins. But here we are, the ups and downs of the baseball season, and I think the Twins are probably, overall the better team. Todd Bradley can look good. He can look bad. I'm going to stay away from this one. But if I had to pick something, I would lean Twins.
Yeah, I think the Twins are really good at beating bad teams. I don't know that Tampa really falls into the bad team category, but I feel like they are basically a bullpen right now and not much else. If they can hang around with you, that's huge. But just Joe Ryan also coming from the Tampa Bay system, got traded to Minnesota. Maybe they still have a pretty good book on him, but he's definitely added a slider and other things that I'm sure Tampa would have had him add way back when. Probably too big of a price for me to look at Minnesota, but I think Todd Bradley has a lot to prove, and I don't think that price is. I mean, it's a big price, but I don't think it's the region that I'd want to be in. Next, I'll move to another just shocking line to me, but we got
Shocking.
Houston and Hunter Brown. Yes, shocking. Visiting Garrett Crochet, and I'm very, very surprised, but Hunter Brown, a slight minus 112 road favorite. Total is 7.5. Choose very heavily to under. I know the odds makers are overreacting, or at least it feels that way to the Jose Abreu cut. I know they're really sad he's not in that lineup anymore, but why are the Houston Astros this cheap? Crochet's been awesome. He's got a good arm,
Yeah.
sure, but he's a lefty. Houston hits those really well. And if he's not going to close this game out, who's going to close it for the White Sox and try to keep Houston? I mean, Houston's been bad. I guess they're under 500. And I'm going to turn this over to you at some point, but Hunter Brown's been awesome. Start of the year throwing batting practice, and he's starting to fade his fastball, Tanner Bybee style. And I feel like this number is so. I mean, I'm not a road favorites guy, but this is very cheap.
This is very weird. Yeah, I agree with you. I know Crochet is their only chance. He's their only guy that you could maybe bet on, but I'm not doing it. I can't. I'm not betting on the White Sox at this kind of price against the Astros, who have been probably Major League Baseball's most disappointing team. And but Hunter Brown has pitched well. This is not the spot to bet a pretty much even money favorite White Sox team. Yeah, give me the Astros.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna wait because I'm not a road favorites guy. But if this moves to Houston as underdog, I don't know how you pass up on
Jordan
it.
Alvarez was out today. Hopefully he's not out tomorrow. Maybe it's just a regular rest day, but
I think I read the powers that be, AI generated, ChatGPT, Yahoo, whatever, that said it was just a rest day. I mean, maybe that's
okay.
a little
Yeah.
bit telling. Lefty wouldn't, I mean, but 2 days back to back off do seem a little bit weird, especially I don't think a lefty was pitching for the White Sox today. So that would be interesting. But maybe your sniffers are working and that's something weird. But even then, I don't think his absence is enough to keep me away from Houston. I doubt it
Yeah.
would be for you either. Last on this list, a game that I've currently paused is Kansas City, last on the American League list. Kansas City and Cole Reagans at Luis Medina from Oakland. Reagans a minus 170 favorite right now. Total is 7.5. Kansas City bullpen's been awful. Part of why I backed Oakland tonight. But Cole Reagans has been very, very good. Do you give Oakland a chance to hit him?
Yeah, they're probably a little bit of a chance. I'm a Royals guy at home. They're obviously not at home in this game. 7.5 is the number. I'm gonna
Yep.
look to go under this one actually.
Don't blame you.
Oakland is one of
Great
the best
park
pitchers
for it.
park.
Yep,
Yeah,
totally. Keep
great
going.
park for it. Reagan's is good. Oakland can't really hit. KC's on the road. Like I just see a lot of under stuff coming up, and Vegas kind of is pricing that way at 7.5, but I think we can still sneak under there. 3 to 4, something like that.
I mean, still feels like a decent number, probably based on not having a lot of faith in Medina. Thinking Kansas City's going to hit him.
Yeah.
Maybe I think there's some value on under 7.5 for sure, and maybe an under first five, probably four or so, with a very important push there if you want to avoid that Kansas City bullpen. Move to interleague before we get to best bets coming in just a few minutes. We'll start with Detroit at Atlanta. Tarek Skubal at one of the best pitchers in baseball that no one was really expecting this year. Great signing by Alex Anthopoulos, bringing in Ronaldo Lopez. Lopez minus 128 favorite at home. Pretty cheap for Atlanta and him, but Skubal has been getting a ton of respect all season, and certainly the odds market or odds makers have done that, as is the marketplace. So Lopez minus 128 at home. Total is 7.5, juice very heavily to under. This is a pretty similar number to what Skubal got on the road at Houston last weekend in a loss to Hunter Brown, who's also pitching for the Astros we just talked about. Do you feel like Skubal's now getting too much respect?
I think he's probably going to win the AL Cy Young. So, he's respectable for sure. And of course, Vegas is a different story rather than, just kind of on the bump and making throws. But I like the under in this one too. These are two good pitchers. The Braves lineup, as we've mentioned on this podcast, has been overrated, I think, all year. The Tigers lineup isn't very good. I have bet against Skubal a couple times this year, and it has not gone well for me. So I'm kind of gun shy of doing that.
Sure.
Um, which is why I'll just stick with under 7.5 here.
Yeah, I don't love betting against really great pitchers as underdogs. I gotta
Yeah.
say that's a scary, scary combo. I don't think Skubal as a favorite is someone that I'm as scared to be against. Though Jack Flaherty, his teammate, is certainly been making me look foolish a little bit there. I feel like Atlanta, I mean, this probably is a fair-ish price. I don't blame anyone for backing Atlanta and expecting those bats to maybe do a little bit more than a very toothless Detroit lineup. Especially difficult if the tiger trying to hunt and eat without teeth. But I feel like there's a lot pointing to under, including an 11:20 Central Time start, 12:20 in the East. Moving next to the Mets visiting Texas, we got Sean Manaea at Andrew Heaney. Spread right now, or the money line is minus 105 both ways. So it is an actual toss up. Total is 8.5, juice a little bit more to over. Mets close the favorite tonight, won 14-2 on Monday night. Texas looks like they are in big, big trouble. And as you mentioned, those Seattle Mariners are running farther and further away in the AL West, but that doesn't really matter for this game here. Heaney's been pretty good lately. I got to give him that credit. Do you think Texas can hit Manaea?
Yeah. So the Mets have been kind of a little better. And I think
Definitely.
they're not lifeless. Like
Team
maybe a couple
meeting.
weeks ago, you kind of would have flopped this and said that the Mets were lifeless and that the Rangers, might be able to get something going down the stretch. And now it's just they're both kind of, well, the Rangers are dead in the water and the Mets are showing some life. So, a couple lefties on the hill. The Mets, I think, fare pretty well against left-handed pitching. I guess I might, well, and they're on the road here. Total toss up, pick them. I'll lean Mets because of their recent form, but I don't love it.
Yeah, players only meeting, and then I think they've been 12 and
Yeah.
4 since then. Texas, meanwhile, won 2 out of 3 in Chavez Ravine at the Dodgers, despite I think losing that series in run differential by 10 runs, and then go get swept at Seattle, get embarrassed Monday night. I don't think things are going great, and Josh Young's about to be back to completely fix that all for the Texas Rangers to win a back-to-back World Series. But just kidding, I don't think that's going to happen. Last but not least on our card, before we get to our best bets, we got Milwaukee and Freddie Peralta, who at A Brooks Bets has as his strikeout king and the season. Stay healthy, Freddie. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. And then we got Tyler Anderson starting for the Angels. I feel like this is a great spot for Milwaukee and really for Freddie to stack up the strikeout numbers. He's a minus 162 favorite on the road. Total is 8, juice pretty heavily to over. Might see an 8.5. Are you worried about Mr. Anderson?
Not enough to lay off here. when I was kind of looking at this game, I know Freddie is a kind of guy who's been a little inconsistent, especially lately. I think this is a good spot for him. I think that he can get the strikeout ball rolling, and I like this Brewers team even at this price. I wouldn't go much more expensive than this, but at minus 162, I'd take it.
All right, so that will wrap us up for this Wednesday card. Got, I think, all games out there, which is great. RIP to Willie Mays as well. That news just hit.
Yes.
Sorry to hear about that, but 93 years, I'll take 93. Sounds like I'll have a lot more. I think I threw
Good
a
run.
ball.
He
Go ahead.
he was one of those guys that I really wish I was able to see, in person or in my lifetime. I've heard a bunch of stories about him being the greatest player that they ever saw, and I don't doubt it. I just wasn't there to see it. And rest in peace, Willie Mays. He's a legend for sure.
Definitely. That's very, very nicely said. Now we transition from Willie Mays and his greatness to now our greatness on our best bets. 4 in our last 2 episodes. I know a lot of people have been grading each of our episodes this season. Feel free to hit us, or we'll get the interns to actually look up our exact records. But we're more about form here on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network. So at A Brooks Bets, give us your best bet for this episode, and we'll get out of here.
My best bet is going to be Dodgers Rockies over 11. Dodgers Rockies over 11 at Coors. Bobby Miller coming off the IL. Feltner's not very good. The Dodgers still have plenty of deep hitting options in that lineup, even without Mookie. Over 11, mile high.
So this is the real underscore G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch, the MLB edition. You just heard at A Brooks Bets. If you listened to our full episode, found on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you want to listen to 40 minutes of us gabbing, that's the best way to go find it instead of doing this 1 minute version on YouTube or Instagram. At A Brooks Bets, he gave you the over at Coors Field, Dodgers Rockies over 11 runs. For my best bet, I'm the real underscore G Warner. You can follow me on all the platforms out there, but especially on Patreon. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports, including the European 2024 Soccer Championship, plus the Copa America. I'll be doing a podcast on that later tonight, considering I never sleep. But for my best bet in this episode, I'm going to stay with one of those early games, getaway days, and I'm going to back the Atlanta Braves and Ronaldo Lopez, minus 128 at home against Tarek Skubal. I don't love fading Cy Young candidates at this price, plus 118 on coming back on Skubal, but I think the Braves are starting to heat up. So back the Braves and the over in Colorado. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe or follow on at the real underscore G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday night again for more winners. And hopefully we'll be 6-0 at that point. Anything to take us out of here at A Brooks Bets?
I got a puppy today, 8 weeks old.
I'm going to guess
Golden Retriever.
Instead of Maui, you named her the Big Island.
No, it's a boy, and we named him Cowboy. Cowboy and Maui. We're gonna ride around.
Oh my
He's
God.
a good looking pup.
All right. Well, I will Photoshop the picture.
5-star review, and he'll make a guest appearance next episode.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. And I'll somehow Photoshop it in. Thanks for joining. We will talk to you all next week.